The room was not a room. At least, not in any way J1 understood rooms. It was a living space that breathed and changed. Walls shifted like water. Colors moved like living things. The air itself seemed to carry emotions and memories. J1's adaptive suit had transformed into something that was part clothing, part living organism. He waited, nervous, excited, scared. Then she appeared. Aria Lynn was not what anyone would expect. She was not a solid being. She was not even a single form of life. She was something completely different, a being of pure energy and consciousness that could reshape herself at will. One moment, she looked like a collection of soft blue lights. The next, she was a shape that reminded him of a human woman. Then she became something that looked like a complex geometric pattern made of living light. Her form changed faster than J1's eyes could track. "Hello, J1," she said, but the words were not spoken. They appeared directly in his mind. Her voice carried emotions, memories, entire stories in a single thought. She explained everything in that first moment of connection. The Luminara had been watching humans for centuries. They saw something special in human beings. Where other species saw limits, humans saw possibilities. Where other species gave up, humans created solutions. Humans were unique in the galaxy. Most species were fixed, unchanging. Humans could adapt. Humans could grow. Humans could transform themselves in ways no other species could. Aria Lynn was not just a princess. She was a complex scientific and diplomatic experiment. Her job was to understand humans, to see how far human potential could go. Their marriage was more than a personal union. It was a bridge between civilizations, a way to study and understand the human species. Her body, if you could call it a body, continued to change. Sometimes she looked like pure energy. Sometimes she looked like a complex machine. Sometimes she looked almost human. "Do you understand?" she asked through thought waves. J1's mind reeled. This was nothing like he expected. This was beyond marriage. This was beyond science. This was something completely new. She showed him things, memories of cosmic conflicts, glimpses of technologies beyond human imagination, entire civilizations that had risen and fallen, the complex network of life that connected different species across the universe. His adaptive suit responded to her presence. It changed. It grew. It became something more than technology. It became a living connection between two different ways of existing. J1 realized something important. This was not just a marriage. This was a meeting of two different types of consciousness, two different ways of understanding reality. Aria Lynn was both more and less than a person. She was a collective consciousness, a living network of information and energy. She could be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "We chose you," she said, "because humans are special." The room, or space, around them continued to change. Colors moved. Shapes shifted. Memories and emotions flowed like liquid. J1 understood now why they had prepared him so carefully, why he had gone through months of training, why he had been selected from millions of candidates. This was more than a wedding night. This was the beginning of something huge, something that would change everything. The universe held its breath. J1's plan was simple and crazy. While alien civilizations prepared for a massive battle, he saw something different. The Void Plague was not just a destroyer. It was a living system that could be changed. Most species would have fought. Humans would find a way to transform. He used the connection with Aria Lynn. Their merged consciousness became a weapon more powerful than any technology. He saw the Void Plague not as an enemy, but as a problem to solve. The tiny weakness he had discovered was more than a point of attack. It was a chance to change everything. Alien ships surrounded him. Massive weapons charge. Energy weapons that could destroy entire planets prepared to fire. But J1 knew fighting was not the answer. "We need to communicate," he told the Alien Council. They looked confused. "How do you communicate with something that destroys everything?" But J1 was human. Humans find ways where others see walls. His adaptive suit became something impossible. Part technology, part living energy, part thought, part memory. It connected with the Void Plague in ways no one understood. Arielyn supported him. She was more than a wife now. She was a bridge between different ways of existing. The Void Plague stopped. For the first time in millions of years, the cosmic destroyer paused. J1 did not attack. He communicated. He showed the Void Plague something it had never seen before. Possibility, change, growth. Humans were special. Where other species saw an enemy, humans saw a problem to solve. Where other species wanted to destroy, humans wanted to understand. The Void Plague began to change. It was not destroyed. It was transformed. Alien scientists could not believe what they saw. Something that had eaten thousands of civilizations was now becoming something new, something different. J1's human ability to adapt had done what massive weapons could not. The cosmic threat became a new form of existence, not a destroyer, not an enemy, something else entirely. Alien civilizations celebrated. Entire species that were about to be destroyed now had hope. Millions of worlds that would have disappeared were now safe. J1 and Arielyn became more than just a married couple. They became a symbol, a bridge between different ways of existing, a sign that communication was more powerful than destruction. The Luminara had chosen well. They had seen something special in humans, the ability to change, the ability to grow, the ability to see possibilities where others saw only limits. J1's wedding was more than a personal moment. It was a cosmic event that changed everything. Humanity was no longer just a small species on a tiny planet. They were now a key part of a larger universal story, a story of hope, a story of change, a story of possibility. And this was just the beginning. The next 2 weeks were a blur of strange meetings and intense preparation. J1's life transformed from a predictable routine to a whirlwind of classified briefings and unusual training sessions. His first meeting with the diplomatic team happened in a secure underground facility beneath Seoul. 4 people sat around a circular table, 2 government officials, a linguistics expert, and a medical specialist. They looked serious and excited at the same time. "Mr. Park," began Dr. Lee, the senior official, "you have been chosen for something unprecedented in human history." The training was unlike anything J1 had ever experienced. He learned special communication protocols that seemed more like a mix of advanced mathematics and interpretive dance. The linguistic expert, Professor Kim, taught him complex gesture systems and sound patterns that would be used to communicate with his future bride species. Medical examinations were thorough and bizarre. Doctors took samples of everything: blood, skin, genetic material. They ran tests that J1 didn't understand. Sometimes, machines would scan him in ways that made his skin tingle with strange energy. "We need to ensure complete genetic compatibility," the medical specialist explained. "This is more than a marriage. It's a diplomatic bridge between species." Physical training was equally intense. J1 learned special breathing techniques, meditation methods, and physical exercises designed to prepare his body for potential environmental challenges. He discovered he would need to wear a special adaptive suit during the wedding and initial meetings. His colleague Da-hyun was the only person who knew the full story. Late one night, over several bottles of soju, J1 shared his fears and excitement. "An alien princess," Da-hyun laughed. "And you can't even see her until the wedding night. That's crazy." But beneath the humor, Da-hyun was impressed. He understood the scientific significance of this moment. Humanity was about to take its first real step into a larger galactic community. J1's parents were told only that he was on a top-secret diplomatic mission. They knew better than to ask too many questions. His mother hugged him tightly, her eyes filled with a mix of pride and worry. The day of departure arrived quickly. A special spacecraft waited at a hidden launch facility outside the city. It wasn't like any vehicle J1 had ever seen before. Its surface seemed to shimmer and change, almost like it was breathing. Government officials gave him final briefings. They explained the basics of interstellar travel, the potential risks, and the immense diplomatic importance of his mission. Every word carried weight. "You're not just representing yourself," Dr. Lee told him. "You're representing all of humanity." As J1 boarded the spacecraft, he carried a small bag with personal items, a photo of his family, his favorite watch, a small notebook. Everything else would be provided by the alien civilization. The interior of the spacecraft was unlike anything he had imagined. Surfaces that seemed to respond to his thoughts, lights that changed color based on his emotional state. Technology so advanced it looked like magic. A soft voice spoke in his mind, not through his ears, but directly into his consciousness. "Welcome, J1," the voice said. "Your journey begins now." He took a deep breath. Whatever came next would change everything, for him and for humanity. Something was changing inside J1. He could feel it. It started small, a tiny spark in his mind, a strange feeling in his bones. His body began to do things it had never done before. When he thought about moving an object, the object would shift slightly. When he concentrated, he could understand complex ideas faster than ever before. Area Lin explained what was happening. The marriage was not just a diplomatic agreement. It was a complex genetic and consciousness transfer. Human DNA had something special, something the Luminara had never seen in other species. Adaptability, she told him, but not through words. Through a direct connection that felt like understanding and memory combined. His adaptive suit was now completely different. It was no longer just technology. It was part of him. Sometimes it looked like clothing. Sometimes it looked like a living organism. Sometimes it looked like pure energy. J1 discovered he could do strange things. He could understand languages he had never learned. He could solve complex mathematical problems in seconds. His brain worked differently now. The Luminara had chosen him carefully. They had tested millions of humans. They needed someone who could adapt, someone who could change, someone who could become more than what they started as. Area Lin showed him memories, cosmic battles, civilizations rising and falling, complex networks of life that connected different species across the universe. He could see these memories as if they were his own. His physical abilities changed too. He could move faster, think clearer, understand more. The connection with Area Lin had transformed him at a genetic level. Scientists from different alien species came to study him. They looked at him like he was a miracle, a living experiment, a bridge between different ways of existing. "Humans are different," one crystal-like scientist said. "You change, you grow, you adapt." J1 learned about a coming conflict, a massive threat to multiple civilizations. The Luminara believed humans might be the key to solving problems no one else could solve. His mind could now process information in ways no human had ever done before. He could see patterns, understand complex systems, connect ideas that seemed impossible to connect. Area Lin was both his wife and his connection to a larger network of consciousness. She was not a single being. She was a collective intelligence that could be everywhere and nowhere. The room around them continued to change. Colors moved like living things. Shapes shifted faster than eyes could track. Memories and emotions flowed like liquid. J1 understood now why they had chosen him, why they had prepared him so carefully. He was more than just a person now. He was a bridge between human potential and cosmic possibilities. Something big was coming, a conflict that would involve multiple species, and humans might be the key to solving it. His body continued to change. His mind expanded. His understanding of reality shifted. J1 was becoming something new, something different, something that could change everything. And this was just the beginning. J1's first glimpse of the alien planet made him question everything he knew about reality. The world looked impossible. Gravity seemed to work differently here. Massive floating islands hung in the sky, connected by bridges of light. Trees grew sideways. Water moved in curves that defied normal physics. The sky changed colors every few minutes, from deep purple to bright green, then to a color he couldn't even name. His adaptive suit worked overtime. It adjusted constantly, protecting him from environmental changes that happened every few seconds. Temperature, radiation, air composition, everything shifted rapidly. Alien beings moved around him. Some looked like living crystals that walked. Others were cloud-like shapes that could become solid or liquid at will. Some creatures were so strange that J1's brain struggled to understand what he was seeing. Representatives met him at the landing area. It wasn't a place, exactly. More like a zone where reality seemed to bend and twist. They wore clothing, if you could call it that, which changed colors and shapes based on their emotions and thoughts. "Welcome, J1," said a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere. "You are the first human to step on Luminara Prime." The ground beneath his feet was not solid. It was more like a living carpet that responded to his movements. With each step, it changed color and texture. Sometimes it felt soft like moss. Sometimes it felt hard like metal. Sometimes it felt like it was breathing. Diplomatic protocols were complex. J1 learned that communication here was not just about words. It was about emotions, intentions, and something the Luminara called thought sharing. He had to learn to control not just what he said, but what he thought. His training came in handy. The breathing techniques, the mental exercises, they helped him navigate this strange new world. He realized why they had prepared him so carefully back on Earth. Large structures rose around him. They were not buildings in the human sense. They were more like living organisms that could change shape. Some looked like giant crystals. Some looked like clouds frozen in time. Some looked like they were made of pure light and energy. Food was another surprise. What he ate was not really food. It was more like an experience. Each meal told a story. Each bite contained memories, emotions, and information. Sometimes he would eat something and suddenly understand complex scientific concepts. The Luminara explained that their world was alive, not just the creatures. The entire planet was a living, thinking entity. Every rock, every plant, every drop of water was connected in ways humans could not understand. J1 met more diplomats. Each was different. Some communicated through color changes, some through musical sounds, some through direct thought transfer. He had to learn to read their signals, to understand their complex language of existence. Preparations for the wedding continued. But these preparations were nothing like human weddings. They involved complex energy exchanges, genetic compatibility tests, and something the Luminara called soul alignment. As the day of his wedding approached, J1 felt a mix of excitement and fear. He was about to marry someone he had never seen, someone from a civilization so advanced, so different, that human concepts of marriage seemed primitive in comparison. The planet around him continued to change. The sky shifted colors. Floating islands moved. Living structures breathed and transformed. Something big was coming, and J1 was at the center of it all. The alarm clock buzzed loudly in Park J1's small apartment. He rolled over, his hand fumbling to silence the noise. Another Monday morning in Seoul was about to begin, and J1 was ready for another typical day at the Aerospace Research Center. At 30 years old, J1 was not what most people would call exciting. He was a dedicated engineer who spent more time with complex mathematical equations and satellite designs than with people. His colleagues often joked that he was married to his work. Little did they know how much that was about to change. As he prepared his morning coffee, the strange message arrived. It came through a secure government communication channel, not his usual email. The envelope was digital, but it looked different. Something about its design made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. J1 opened the message. His hand trembled slightly as he read the first line. Qnfidintuil. Diplomatic proposal of interstellar matrimonial alliance. He blinked. Then he read it again. And again. The message was from a division of the United Nations he had never heard of before. Apparently, Earth had been in secret communication with an advanced alien civilization for the past 5 years. These aliens, who called themselves the Luminara, were proposing a unique diplomatic strategy: a marriage. His marriage. According to the document, J1 had been selected from millions of potential candidates. His background was perfect: a top aerospace engineer with no immediate family dependencies, excellent physical health, and a psychological profile that matched their requirements. The proposal was simple yet bizarre. He would marry a royal heir from the Luminara civilization. The catch: he would not see his bride until their actual wedding night. This was a strict cultural requirement of their species. In exchange, Earth would receive unprecedented technological transfer, scientific knowledge, and protection from potential cosmic threats. The Luminara saw this marriage as more than a personal union. It was a bridge between two civilizations. J1's coffee went cold. His toast sat untouched. He read the document again and again, trying to understand how his ordinary life had suddenly become extraordinary. The document included preliminary information about his future bride. Her name was Arielyn, a royal heir to one of the Luminara's most important diplomatic houses. Beyond her name and royal status, no other details were provided. No image, no description, nothing. A video call was scheduled for that evening with diplomatic representatives. They would explain more about the proposal, answer his questions, and require his formal consent. His mind raced. What would this mean for his career? For humanity? For him personally? The idea of marrying someone he had never seen, from a completely different species, was both terrifying and fascinating. J1's phone buzzed. A message from his best friend and colleague, Kim Da-hyun. Breakfast. He hesitated. How could he possibly explain what had just happened? How could he tell anyone that he might be about to become the first human to marry an alien princess? As he stared at the message, one thing became clear: his life would never be the same again. The clock ticked. The coffee grew cold. And somewhere in the vast universe, a princess was waiting to meet her chosen husband. Space was not what J1 expected. It wasn't dark and empty like in movies. Instead, it was alive with colors and strange light patterns that seemed to breathe and move. The spacecraft moved in ways that broke everything he knew about physics. Sometimes it felt like they were moving faster than light. Other times, it felt like they weren't moving at all. Yet entire star systems would pass by the windows. Windows was not the right word. They were more like living screens that showed whatever the ship wanted to show. Sometimes they displayed star maps. Sometimes they showed scenes that looked like memories, but not his memories. Alien diplomats visited him regularly. They were not humanoid in the way he had imagined. The first diplomat looked like a collection of soft blue light that could change shape. It could become almost solid, then dissolve into mist, then reshape again. "I am Kral," the light being said. Its voice came directly into J1's mind. "We have many questions about humans." The conversations were strange. Sometimes they felt like interviews. Sometimes they felt like tests. The aliens asked about human emotions, human problem-solving, human creativity. They seemed fascinated by simple human concepts like humor and love. J1 learned that the marriage was more than a personal union. It was a complex diplomatic experiment. The Luminara had been watching humanity for decades. They saw something special in humans, something unique among all known species in the universe. Humans adapt, Krull explained one day. Where other species give up, humans create. Where other species see walls, humans see challenges. The ship had areas that seemed to change based on J1's thoughts. When he felt hungry, food would appear. When he felt tired, a comfortable rest area would form. The technology was so advanced, it seemed like magic. One day, Kral showed him something incredible. A holographic display of galactic conflicts appeared around them. J1 saw battles between species he could not understand. Massive ships, strange energy weapons, entire civilizations fighting for survival. "This is why your marriage matters," Krell said. "Humanity might be the key to solving problems no one else can solve." J1 learned about the Luminara civilization. They were not a single species, but a collective of different intelligent life forms that had joined together. Some were energy beings like Krell. Some were physical like humans. Some were forms of life humans had never imagined. Their technology was beyond anything on Earth. They could move planets. They could communicate across galaxies instantly. They could transform matter and energy in ways that looked impossible. But they saw something special in humans, something they wanted to understand better. As they traveled, J1's adaptive suit continued to change. It learned from the environment. It adjusted to different radiation levels. It protected him from unknown challenges. He thought about Arielyn, his future wife. He still knew almost nothing about her. Would she be like Krell, a being of pure energy? Would she look humanoid? Would she even be able to communicate with him? The questions filled his mind as star systems continued to pass by the living screens of the spacecraft. Something big was coming. Something that would change everything he knew about humanity, about himself, and about the universe. The first warning came as a wave of darkness. Not darkness like night. This was different. A darkness that ate light. A darkness that destroyed reality itself. Alien scientists called it the Void Plague, a cosmic threat that had already destroyed thousands of civilizations. J1 saw it first. His new abilities allowed him to see things others could not. The threat looked like a black hole that moved. It consumed everything. Planets, stars, entire solar systems disappeared when it touched them. Alien leaders gathered. They looked worried. Some were made of energy. Some were solid beings. Some were shapes the humans could not understand. But they all felt the same fear. "Humans are our last hope," Arielyn told the council. J1's body had changed completely. His adaptive suit was now part of him. Sometimes it looked like clothing. Sometimes it looked like living energy. Sometimes it looked like nothing at all. The Void Plague moved fast. It had already destroyed 3 major galactic civilizations. Millions of species were in danger. Entire star systems were being erased from existence. Scientists showed J1 complex maps. The Void Plague moved like a cancer. It ate everything. Consumed everything. Nothing could stop it. But humans were different. J1's mind could see patterns that others missed. He could understand the Void Plague in ways no other species could. His human ability to adapt became the key to fighting this cosmic threat. Arielyn connected him to a massive network of consciousness. He could see the entire universe through this connection. Millions of species, countless worlds, complex networks of life and energy. The plan was crazy. Use human creativity to solve a problem that had destroyed thousands of civilizations. Use J1's unique abilities to find a solution that no one else could see. Alien technology prepared for a massive fight. Huge ships that looked like living machines gathered. Energy weapons charged. Entire civilizations prepared for their final battle. J1 worked differently. While others prepared for war, he searched for a solution. His mind moved in ways that surprised even the most advanced alien scientists. He saw something others missed. A tiny weakness in the Void Plague's structure. A small point where reality could be twisted. Where the impossible could become possible. "We need creativity," he told the Alien Council. "Not just power." His adaptive suit began to change. It became a complex machine that was part technology, part living organism, part human, part alien. Arielyn supported him. She was not just his wife now. She was his connection to a larger network of consciousness. She helped him see things no single being could see. The Void Plague approached. Entire star systems disappeared. Millions of species prepared for their final moment. J1 had a plan. A crazy plan. A human plan. something that no other species would have thought of. The fate of the universe now depended on one human's ability to think differently, to adapt, to create something new. The wedding day arrived with colors J1 had never seen before. The entire planet seemed to be preparing for something huge. The floating islands moved into special positions. The sky changed to colors that hurt his eyes, but somehow felt beautiful. Living structures around him began to pulse with a rhythm that felt like music and heartbeats combined. J1's adaptive suit was now completely different from what he had worn during his journey. It looked like it was made of living light, changing colors and patterns every few seconds. The suit was more than clothing. It was a complex system that connected him to the alien environment. Diplomatic representatives from multiple species gathered. Some looked like walking crystals. Some were clouds of colored energy. Some were shapes that changed so fast J1's eyes could not track them. Thousands of beings had come to watch this historic moment. The ceremony was nothing like a human wedding. It was part scientific process, part spiritual ritual, part political agreement. J1 stood in a circle made of pure energy. Symbols he could not understand moved around him. Each symbol told a story, carried a meaning deeper than words. Kral, the diplomat he had met during his journey, explained parts of the ceremony. "This is more than a marriage," the being of blue light said. "This is a joining of two civilizations, a bridge between different ways of existing." Music played. If you could call it music, it was more like direct emotional communication. Each sound carried feelings, memories, complex ideas. J1 could hear colors. He could see sounds. The boundaries between senses disappeared. His adaptive suit began to change more rapidly. It responded to the ceremony's energy. Sometimes it looked like pure light. Sometimes it looked like a reflection of the surrounding environment. Sometimes it looked like it was breathing. Representatives spoke, not with words, but with thought waves. J1 could feel their intentions, their hopes, their expectations. This wedding was about more than two individuals. It was about the future of multiple species. The ceremony lasted what felt like both seconds and centuries. Time worked differently here. Sometimes a moment stretched into hours. Sometimes hours collapsed into a single breath. J1 saw glimpses of his bride through the ceremony. Not a clear image, but quick flashes. A hand made of light. A shadow that moved like water. A presence that felt both familiar and completely alien. Political leaders from different parts of the galaxy watched. Some were excited. Some were worried. Humans were an unknown factor. No one knew exactly what would happen when a human joined with a Luminara Royal. Energy waves moved around J1. They tested him. They measured him. They understood him in ways no human technology could. His genetic structure, his emotional capacity, his potential, everything was being evaluated. The final part of the ceremony involved a complex energy exchange. J1 could feel something connecting him to something larger. Not just to his bride, but to a massive network of living consciousness. As the ceremony reached its peak, J1 realized something important. This was not just his wedding. This was a moment that would change everything. For him, for humanity, for the entire universe. The living world around him pulsed with anticipation. Something big was about to happen, and he was right at the center of it all.